Marketing for the Now is the most contemporary show about what's actually happening. Marketing is going through one of its biggest transformations ever, where this thing controls the game. And there's so many things we pay attention to, but we get to talk to the brightest and best minds in marketing on Marketing for the Now.
Hello, world, and hello, Daisy. How are you doing?
I'm all good. I'm ready for today.
This is our first ever Marketing for the Now episode for the EMEA region, Europe, Middle East. And Daisy, you are a wonderful managing director. For those of you who I don't know, I'm Avery. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Vayner, and I'm thrilled to be kicking off today's Marketing for the Now episode. Daisy, tell us a little bit of what's happening across the pond.
So it's been a busy time. I think the back to school feeling is very much there and ready. I think a lot of people, the energy naturally coming off a summer holiday is get your kids away and out of the house. Like, yay, the celebration for that. But the next thing is often, okay, let's look to 2025. And I think a lot of our partners, colleagues, clients, all focus very much on 2025. But the thing I always think we have to remember is there's still 4 months to go. And There's so much relevant moments kind of to jump on attention. If we look at Halloween coming up, we've got Christmas, we've got that kind of golden quarter of holiday season coming up. We've got that, you've got Black Friday, but then we've also got loads of other amazing things going on culturally that we should be mindful of. So there's so much to not forget coming up at this year that I think that's a big part of our energy as well. Don't just look at 2025, look at what's happening in front of you today.
Absolutely. I mean, this is called Marketing for the Now, and the now is this fall. There's so many exciting things that are happening. I actually just saw an ad for I think it was the Irish tourism board talking about the history of Halloween, which according to the ad, it started in Ireland or in that sort of region, which was super interesting. And it got me thinking, there's so many cool activations you could do, even around those sort of cultural holidays like that. Of course, back to school is a huge time of year. Holiday, October, November, December, the time of celebration and fun, Boxing Day in your neck of the woods. There's a lot going on. And we have an incredible slate of guests who are going to be joining you. Daisy, you will be hosting today because I believe Gary had a little emergency, but it's okay. We have the best ever in you, Daisy, to host.
Big shoes to fill.
Yes, absolutely. I can see his office right over there. I'm live from the Hudson Yards headquarters. So Daisy, I know we've got incredible guests from some of the biggest CPG companies, healthcare organizations, cruise lines, all different types of cool people. So I'm so excited to see this today's episode of Marketing for the Now.
I think it's going to be fantastic. And I think, as you say, it's the breadth and the beauty of some of these. We've got people on startup, scale up, well-established global brands. And I think there's so much one another can learn from each other. So I think my advice to everyone, tune in, listen in, see what's resonating with you. And as always, afterwards, follow up with questions to us. We're happy to dive into anything you want to know more on as well.
Absolutely. And feel free to use the comment feature. I know we're streaming this on LinkedIn Live, on YouTube Live, maybe even on Instagram, all the lives. So if you've got comments, questions, throw them in the chat and we'll make sure to get back to you. And can't wait for today's episode. Over to you, Daisy.
Perfect. So I think, as Avery says, we've got a jam-packed schedule. But first up today, we have the amazing Selina Sykes, our Global VP of Digital Media and Commerce. A long title.
Too long.
And Wellbeing at Unilever. But Selina joins us with a wealth of experience. She leads the global growth strategy for beauty and wellbeing at Unilever. But she's worked with some of the most iconic brands and some of your most iconic moments. So if I think about things such as you've worked on Axe, but also been spearheading the Dirt is Good movement, which I think as marketeers, we're all well versed in. And I think most recently you've been leading the Uncovery, the Unilever's new business creation data. Tell us a bit more about that.
So that was a startup. So we're obviously a massive company, well established, and we just try and do a lot of experimentation because we want to keep learning all the time as a business. So the Uncovery was one of our experiments that I led for a couple of years, where we were really looking end to end as what does it look like to grow new beauty brands. Right from we used to say post-it note to Amazon product page, end to end. What would it be like to come up with products, create products, sell products, and just learn from that? So it wasn't so much about the brands and growing them and then becoming part of our portfolio. We're very, very focused on our big power brands, but it was about the learnings that we could get from doing that cycle that we could then take to our power brands. And that's what we've done with those learnings.
which I think is incredible. And I think one of the things we often see nowadays is the beauty of where our social channels have moved to and our communication channels is social is such a rich environment. And you mentioned the Amazons of the world as well for getting that real-time feedback and insights on these brands. And I know that as a result, social as part of the agenda at Unilever has definitely come up the scale. Yeah. But I think one of the challenges we often see with our global brands is that battle between global and local. And actually, when money is tight, when you're looking at those marketing budgets, how do you drive that relevance at a global level and kind of that local level as well?
Yeah, it's something that when you start talking about getting into culture, getting into communities, you immediately think that has to be done locally. Like you have to be physically close and you've got to be embedded and immersed in it. And I think in this movement that we're really driving our marketing to do that, we completely acknowledge that. Like we want to be in culture, understand the platforms we're on, understand the communities that we serve deeply, to be able to give them stuff that's engaging and relevant. So that local focus is absolute priority. But we always remember that we've got the beauty of Unilever is that we have these incredible global powerhouse brands, like brands that have been around for a long, long time, brands that are, $1 billion brands, like really, really strong brands. And they wouldn't be those brands if they weren't already relevant to people. If they wouldn't be around for all this time, they wouldn't have the geographical footprint that they have if they didn't have that relevance. So for me, balancing those two is really about tapping into the magic of the brands themselves and saying, what is it about a brand like Tresemme that makes so many millions and millions of consumers everywhere, from Brazil to the US to India, love this brand? Tap into that magic, really understand that at a global level, and then feed that into the markets and into the places where people can then say, well, how do I explode this in my market? How do I bring this to life, in India versus Brazil versus US? So I think it's about seeing not the and/or and not the swing between, but it's about how they come together to really create, super relevance.
Which I love that feeling. And the fact that it's kind of those broad global truths, but then underpinned by that real local nuances that then markets can run with and find and tap into those unique ways it's being used. I absolutely love that. If you were to look at your sector right now, who do you think is kind of really winning, and why would you say that is? Yeah.
So I work in the beauty and wellbeing space, and I think a lot of brands are winning. I wouldn't particularly choose one and say a particular one of our brands or competitor that's, like through and through. I think everyone's learning in this space in beauty. I think it's always an industry that, along with maybe fashion, runs quite fast as these changes happen. So there's lots of brands all over the place, but I think the common thread where I see these kind of pockets of excellence is it's about really working off those insights that may be trend driven. So you were just talking about like cultural moments, like that are genuinely moments like Halloween. But I think there's also this in things like beauty, there's these underpinning cultural trends that we need to tap into, which are like longer term shifts. So like how femininity is evolving and how we can really understand what that means to women today, and therefore how we can show up as that. I think brands that are tapping into those cultural shifts I'm seeing are doing some great work, as well as obviously the really cool, moment-based work that you always see.
And one of the things that kind of just sprung to my mind as you were talking, obviously in an age of kind of social media and kind of the more celebrity endorsement and a lot of beauty brands coming up in that space, how do you see the role of influencers obviously shaping, especially in the way you guys think about it in Unilever, because sometimes they're at the forefront of creating these cultural movements, but also they can be very much enabled for the brand to be another voice to kind of see those through.
Well, I think if you really like to, break down what is an influencer, I think they don't just come from nowhere. Like influencers work for a really long time to like hone their craft. They understand culture, they understand the communities that they talk to and the culture that they are relevant to in a super authentic way. And I think those are the best influencers, aren't they? Those are the ones that really, have so much presence. And the role of that in marketing for us is hugely, hugely important. It's something that we've built a really strong capability in over the last few years as we've Unilever developed this beauty and wellbeing part of their business further. Super important. And we really want to find influencers that kind of align with the values of our brands and speak from authentically. You know, for us, it's about us really meaning something to them, and delivering something for them that then they can speak about to their authentically. And that gives so much power to your message when you've got someone else talking about you in that way. But it has to come from a place of genuine authenticity. And I've said that word a lot, but it's true. It has to be true.
No, I completely see that. I think it's one of the things we often start with is really thinking about those cohorts, those audiences, and breaking them down, because it's very easy to get those briefs. You've seen them in the door, which goes Gen Z, and we go, well, Gen Z is pretty broad still, exactly. And actually finding those segments on their interest graph 100%. To kind of marry up around those kind of, as you say, the authentic connectors in the middle.
Yeah. And I like how you guys look at it. I did some work with you around sometimes just diving into them, that almost becomes a creative brief.
Exactly.
It's so interesting. And you only, you know, there's something I always think with marketing, there's some things that will forever be true. Like knowing the people you serve, genuine insights from day dot of marketing was like the most important thing for marketing. It's the same today, except today, you know, we talk about fragmentation of channel, but here you've got fragmentation of culture and fragmentation of communities because of social media has created that. And therefore it just makes our job more difficult to find those insights, but they are there. And you just have to, you know, focus your organization into tapping into those, and then you're away.
I agree. And I think it's being brave enough to be present in those, like whether you like it or not, your brand is being shaped and formed in many of these. But the beauty of nowadays, you can look at not only what your brand is doing, but also see what the competitors and people are saying about the competitors, which in an olden days, you would probably have to wait for the ad to come out and kind of guess kind of what people think in terms of sentiment. So it is much readily available.
And not even the competitors. Like what we pay a lot of attention to is the consumers themselves. Like they know so, like the information and the expertise that consumers have in the beauty industry is unparalleled. I think it's so, we really listen. And what we're really trying to do is bring those insights and those learnings into our business and building from that, because it's all about like being in sync with your consumers and working with them, you know, and adding value to their lives.
Which again, thinking back to the MPD, the incubator you started with, that's invaluable when you go, okay, we're bringing out a new pair of hair tongs and it turns out there's nothing for long hair. There's something for short.
And what does it mean? And like, what are the real things? That's something so it was a learning for the business being in recovery, but personally it was a huge learning curve for me. And that's definitely something that will never leave me, is that the importance of that. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. Just a quick question. What have you been inspired by on social recently? And I know that's a broad question because probably with the way the feeds are, we're inundated regularly with
there's too much. And funny enough, even though my job is about social media, like that, all of my job, I try not to personally spend all my time there. But from a work point of view, I think it's really interesting. So we're talking about in the EMEA region. I think it's really interesting seeing some brands, different brands. So like the royal family. So what we saw recently with the royal family and the content that they put out around Princess Catherine. And I just thought that was a hugely pivotal moment. If you see how far, and I'm in the UK, so I've seen that kind of arc of what happens there. But really, really amazing content, really, really interesting how they've approached it and how they've created it and the reaction to it. So that inspired me in a way. It shows that you can really change things. If you can change an establishment, an institution like that, and do something so different and so brave, like you say, I think it's really interesting. You know, all of us should be looking at our own industries and our own institutions and thinking about like, what do we want to do differently and how do we want to make those shifts? And definitely it's kind of like change is a constant at Unilever. Like we're always looking at like, how can we get better? How can we really, you know, do better marketing day in, day out?
I love that. And I think that's a principle that pretty much underpins a lot of what we do and how we think. To the world evolves daily. And I always hope that the agency we are in today looks very different in 5 years' time, because otherwise we're not doing a good enough job of keeping up and keeping that relevance for you guys as well.
Yeah. And like I say, finding those points that are true forever, because sometimes the constant's as important as change. It's like, what is the continuity? Like what's going to stay the same? And there are a couple of things that we really need to embed. And, you know, historically, we've got great kind of expertise in some of those things, but it's then about understanding what mindsets do we need to shift? What do we need to unlearn? You know, which is quite funny for a back to school edition, but it's all about the unlearning as well as the learning, I think.
I love that, and getting comfortable with the things you don't know, and that open mindset, that growth mindset is all about completely. I think I've got room for one more question. What can us kind of more experienced marketers learn from the young creators and entrepreneurs of today, do you think?
I think it actually builds on your question. Your point about the learning mindset.
Yeah.
What I see when I see especially content created by like influencers who are just starting up or entrepreneurs who are just starting their own brand, it's the bravery and the confidence of like, I've got this idea, I'm just going to go for this. Where I think a lot of us who have been in the industry for a long time think, no, but you have to do this and this and this before you can launch a brand before you. But I think it's the bravery, but I think it's that bravery comes with an absolute, like, it doesn't matter if I make a mistake. Doesn't matter if this content doesn't wash well, or, you know, this doesn't work. I can just go at it again. And I think that's maybe something that's part of this mindset of, it's about growth mindset. It's about learning mindset. It's not about getting everything right. It's not about knowing all the answers. And you can see that in some of the stuff that you see. You're just like, well, that doesn't really quite hit the mark, but you know what? It was really good try. And I bet they learned loads. And then the next time it just gets better and better and better.
And I love
that's
that.
a big shift. Yeah.
And I think that's so important. It's that thing. It's the fear, getting rid of fear and just giving it a go. And I think fear gets set in the longer you go, because you've learnt your ways and you know that there's a different way. But I think,
and you think there's a paradigm that exists, but there's not.
Exactly. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time today. That went far too quickly. I'm sure there's millions of comments on the chat, which I can see coming through, which I'm sure we can follow up on. But thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. Enjoyed it. Take care. Enjoy the rest of the conversation.
Bye. Perfect. And next up, we have the amazing Yann Pissenem. Pissenem, I can tell me.
It's okay.
Is that right?
To pronounce. Yeah, it's really complicated. Pissenem.
I got it.
Yeah, you got it.
But Yann is one of those, talking about those entrepreneurs, the people who lead the field, those people who are brave enough to give it a go. Yann probably embodies all of this. He is the CEO and owner and founder of UNVRS, which consists of the Night League, Ushuaïa Entertainment, High Ibiza, Ushuaïa Ibiza, and I'm sure many, many other things brewing in your very, very calm life. But welcome, Yann. You are obviously joining us, I believe, today from Ibiza, where I'm sure many people would like to be today. And one of the things that kind of popped up on my in-feed on the holiday was all of a sudden I saw Will Smith going mad about a UFO sighting in Ibiza. Tell me more about kind of how this came about and what happened.
That was okay. I'm launching a new venue, a big venue, the biggest of all the venues that I own on the island, and the name is UNVRS. The isotype of UNVRS is a little UFO, and I wanted to launch a global campaign. And obviously, as we all know, sometimes we have marketing limitations when we want to launch a brand and you want to launch it really, really global. So the idea was to launch a little viral video about a seaside of a UFO, and to make it really viral online, pushing. So we did a really, really simple studio edit with a little video that we did in Ibiza on a beautiful view near SXSW, which is a beautiful site, and with a girl running and seeing that UFO in the sky. And we pushed it as strong as we could, and that video went really viral, so viral as we did more than 50 million views and around 100 articles about it. Like, everybody was talking about it during a few weeks, and the Will story is a beautiful story. I saw that Will Smith was in Madrid, so. The idea at the beginning was to reveal that UFO seaside with some offline advertising on island, showing the UFO and then explaining and launching the name. But when I saw that Will was in Madrid, I called a friend of mine, which I know was linked to his management, and I asked if they wanna be on the island in Ibiza, because when you are in Spain, it's summer. Most of the time, people make a little jump and come to the island. So we started the conversation, and she said, maybe we will come on the island in the next weeks. And then she called me back and she told me, yes, we're going to come. Let's talk about doing something. So it was not something ready to go, but I put David Guetta on stage, took my car, went to see them at the hotel where they were, and tried to pitch my idea to the management and to Will. No, so I came with my computer. We talked about all that UFO story, and who better to reveal a UFO story.
The man who saved the universe multiple times.
Exactly. It was like, for me, it was the best character possible to reveal my story, So I presented to the management. I felt that at the beginning they looked at me like if I was crazy, but they are super good people. We now became really friends with all the team, and they called me back the day after, and they told me, look, that's super crazy, but that's an alignment of the star. Let's go. Let's do it. We're gonna help you, and we're gonna go into that project with you, and we're gonna work out that video. As Will was recording, because he's doing a lot of music project right now, and he was recording in the studio, it was the right time to do it. So we created that small video, and then we launched it to the world, and that was a really good thing for us.
And I think one of the things I loved about it is just how authentic it was. It was like him on the rocks, just looking out, and it literally just felt like it was, and it actually tapped into a big thing that we're seeing is like that growth in supposed UFO sightings. So it felt so natural, and it was such a brilliant moment. How was Will to work with?
He's amazing. We had a lot of fun. Imagine I had to made him go up to the roof of that building site, because we're still under construction now. So it's a building site. He knows, he's so good at what he does that he helped us all a lot by acting and being supernatural. And he did everything by himself. I mean, we had that little idea of the script. He changed it, he touched it, he made it better, obviously. And then yes, he's amazing to work with. For us, it was an honor and a real pleasure to have him on board. And he's going to come back for the opening party of UNVRS in May next year.
Flying in a UFO, or
I don't know if he's going to come with a UFO, but yes, he's going to be present there, and he's stepping now in a music part, also linked to electronic music. So he's going to be part of us for next year.
Amazing. And talk to us. Obviously, Ibiza, a lot happens in Ibiza. I think a lot of trends, if I look at fashion, culture, music, there's so many things when it comes to relevance that come out of the culture of Ibiza. Why is it so important kind of in that global marketplace, do you feel?
I mean, since the 70s and the hedonism moments of the island, Ibiza is and has been a really relevant place. We have the top 100 biggest artists of electronic music of the world playing at the same time during 3 or 4 months. And each time more with globalization and the transport being easier, you have all the celebrities, even in back in the days, you had Montserrat Caballé with Freddie Mercury singing in crew, like in the 90s. And then I remember being seated in the 90s also in space with Naomi Campbell seated beside me. Like it's a place where everything is easy, and people are mixed together. You have celebrities coming from all around the world to spend time and to enjoy the freedom of the island, and that makes a unique destination for the world, and really attractive for all these celebrities and famous people for all over the world. So it's also a pipe to outside. People are looking at it like sorry, something pops in my screen. So so it's for all the other clubs of the world and all the other musical destinations, Ibiza is kind of an example. People look at it and they build their lineups and they build their stories, looking a little bit at what we're doing here. So yes, it has been always the Mecca of electronic music.
And I think it's what's amazing, the synergies between that, and just even how we think about the best creativity doesn't come from one place. It's that melting pot where you get all of those different minds together, and that's where the true magic happens.
Exactly.
So I absolutely love that. Well, I'm being prompted, Yann. It's been absolutely incredible to have you here. I can't, for one, wait to come to the opening party.
You're super welcome. So next
Can't
May.
wait. I might fly in on a UFO. You never know. But it's absolutely amazing having you. Thank you so much for your time, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
And rolling on quickly, thank you all for your engagement and comments in the chat. We have the amazing Michael Torres here. He is the Chief Communications and Marketing Officer at Hevolution Foundation. Hevolution, some of you may be aware of, is a global non-profit organization dedicated to catalyzing the shift from lifespan to health span. And I think anyone who's kind of been looking at this space, they'll see that growing space in the world of health span becoming a real top part of the agenda. And I know that Mike and his team are very, very much behind driving that. As you can see behind him, please take note, everyone, 4th to the 5th of February, you are all welcome to come to Riyadh for the Global Health Span Summit, one of the biggest moments in the year. Absolutely fascinating time. I know that having worked with you guys, we're learning so much, and it really makes me think about what I'm putting in my body, how I'm consuming, how I'm living the day. But I think it's one of those things that's such an important conversation. So welcome, Michael. Thank you so much for being a friend of Vayner for many years now. Prior to joining Hevolution, you obviously were a key part of the comms team at places such as IHG, and I know we were talking about that just before we came on screen, and PepsiCo. But we'd love to hear a bit about what you guys are up to over in Riyadh.
Yeah, so at Hevolution, we continue to get out there and really live our commitment, which is funding research as well as incentivizing early stage companies to really drive the health span, emerging health span science field. So we're really building the brand right now. We're really building the organization. What you have to keep in mind is we've been operational for 2 years. In 2 years, we've allocated $400 million to researchers, to partnerships, as well as early stage biotech companies. And this is all about advancing the field. And really what we want to do is 3 things. We want to be able to bring more safe, effective therapeutics to the marketplace. We want to compress the drug development pipeline. And 3, what we really, really find to be the most important thing to us is create accessibility for everyone, not just people who can pay for it, but for everyone. And by leveraging our budget, Daisy, what we really want to do is bring more scientists in the field, expand the number of companies that are in the field, and also attract more capital to the field. And we do that by leveraging our annual budget of up to $1 billion a year.
That's absolutely incredible. And I think it's, as I said, like hearing your CEO speak and the founders, it's always so incredibly inspirational and rich in terms of, it's not a topic that is going away. It's a topic that's so critical right now. And I think is so critically needed across world organizations. And even when I look at local government and the conversations we have here, you know, in the UK around the NHS, and it's such a growing topic. So thank you for all the work you're doing. And as I said, everyone get out there 4th to 5th. But in the meantime, please tune into a lot of the amazing content you guys are producing around the topic.
And Daisy, we got to thank Vayner. We got to thank the team that's behind this. We can't do this alone. We have amazing partners. So thank you.
Thanks. Ooh, very awkward taking praise, but thank you very much. There's a massive team here and they do an incredible job. One of the things I would love to change track, and I know this is a marketing podcast, but as it's back to school, we'd love to know a little bit about who was your favorite teacher at school and why. Putting you on the spot there.
Yeah, there's quite a few teachers that come to mind, but there's one in particular, Mrs. Applebaum. She was an English teacher, by the way.
Okay.
I think what I loved about her is she embraced creativity. She really taught us freedom from rules, paint outside the lines. It was all about appreciation. And really what I liked about her, it was just a go get after it mentality. You know, no judgment, see what you learn, gain some insights. And for me, growing up very young, this is probably 9th grade, high school. It's just refreshing. That's a weird time for young people, freshmen in high school, you're still trying to figure it all out. But to have a teacher that says, listen, you don't have it figured out, and that's your advantage. Go create, go be crazy. There's no right, there's no rules. Go learn. Gotta love her for that.
And I think there's so much we can probably take as marketeers. And I think I remember talking to someone and they said the problem with adults is we forget how to play. And I think that is one of the biggest skill sets. When you see the marketing that is really effective, it's almost like they've just gone, they've been brave, they've remembered how to play and to kind of how to not just go with the mold because that's the way it's always done.
Totally.
If I think to kind of one of the biggest changes you've had to make to your social media content in these past 12 months, obviously you've been launching. So there was year 1, learning agenda. You're now in year 2. Like what's the biggest shifts you've kind of found in those last 12 months?
So for me, I always start with really being strategic, but most important, often it's about imposing rigor and discipline and a strategic approach. And for us at Hevolution, really leaning into the social media aspect. Look, you all taught me brands are built on social. I've been there for years, and I still believe it today. So what we've decided was to really focus on LinkedIn in order to target our high value stakeholders. Those are biotech, business, policymakers, scientists, researchers, policymakers, whatnot. I don't need to be in the B2C play right now. I need to be very focused on B2B and bring that cohort into the space, because that's who we're trying to influence. I believe I'm in the influence business. And I do that, to your point, grabbing attention. So for me, one of the first things we did is really imposing that rigor. The second thing we did was really focus on contextual, relevant-based content strategy. Like, it's not about what I think is right. It's not about where I think I want to go. It really starts where our high-value stakeholders are. Like, what do they care about? What are they interested in? And then it's finding that intersection between the stories they want to hear about and the stories I want to tell. When you find that magic, you really start to hit on the magical sort of content. And you know what? The data will tell you if you're right or wrong, which brings me to my third point, which is data, data, data. Good data leads to the insights that sets us free from emotional debates. I love that, because I don't have to say what I feel. I mean, I can, but we let the data dictate where we're going to go. You have a point of view, I have a point of view. Let's talk it out. Let's kick the can around. But what's the data saying? And that's something that I do a lot with your team at VaynerMedia. We really kick the data around. And then I think the final thing is that we've imposed is test and learn.
Yes.
Don't get addicted to what's working, because at some point you're going to get that fatigue. It's not going to work. And if you're not testing and learning along the way, then you become static. You become stale. You become irrelevant. And I never want that to happen for us. So for me, it's about pushing the boundaries. And I actually believe you got to break it if you want to have breakthroughs. So I'm looking to always break it. And sometimes you don't get it right. And that's perfectly okay. Because even when you don't get it right, you gain an insight and you course correct. That's what it's about.
I love that. And I think it takes somebody who kind of is brave again. And I think what have you got to learn there? If it's right, if it's not offensive, it's not going to cause damage to the brand. If you're saying it's left and the other person's saying it's right, and we don't know what's wrong, get them both out and see what's really resonating. And that, as you say, let the data tell you and learn and evolve from that.
Yeah. I mean, we do that all the time. Weekly, we have this meeting. In fact, I'll give you a good example. We were looking at our engagement rate on LinkedIn, and we've been trending about 15% organic, which is really strong for us when you look at the industry benchmark.
Yeah.
And I look at data every day, and the Vayner team, I love them to death. They know, because we talk about it all the time. And I kind of feel like I got to be able to keep pace with them, because they're really, really good. So I got to make sure I know my stuff. And I started seeing a soft declining trajectory in organic. And my question was, looking at the different content now, what's driving that? And so we did a deep dive in it. And we were using a lot of carousels, which are really driving some really good engagement, organic engagement. And I remember us saying, this is an example of testing and learning. Let's go test some of the stuff, because we keep doing that, it's gonna start to lose its interest. So we started testing. You know what? That's great. We started seeing the organic engagement start to come down. Went from 15, went to 12, went to 10, got to 9, and started getting to 8. And then we did the deep dive and realized, look, we got to find the right balance. We can't abandon it, but we can strike a good balance. And with that, now we're seeing the organic go right back up. It's a little above a 10 right now. So
those are some great stats. And I think alongside that, the other thing always to keep an eye on is the algorithms move so quickly, and the platforms are forever coming out with new features, new additions, extending the number of frames in a carousel, all of those things, which can mean that, to your point, you can't stay static, because what was working organically, the algorithms and the way the platforms are pushing new features will just naturally mean it changes. So it's being ready for that as well.
And that's something I love about working with the Vayner team, is like we do that every week and looking at what are the different new offerings that are happening with LinkedIn. Let's go test them. So right now we're testing CTV. Let's see what that does for us.
Love it.
Right? So test and learn, test and learn, test and learn. That's kind of where my head's at.
Amazing. I could literally spend hours talking to you all day, and thank you for all your kind words about Vayner, but I can see I'm being prompted to wrap us up. It's gone far too quickly, but again, everyone, Health Summit, get your tickets. And Michael is always there on LinkedIn. Do reach out to him and get in touch.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much for having me, Daisy. Thank you to the entire Vayner team. Love you guys.
Amazing to see you. Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
And next up, another one. It's one in, one out. Anna here, and she's sailing. Anna is our Vice President, Brand Marketing and Customer Experience for the amazing Celestyal Cruises. I'm always very jealous when I see all the content from your team and what's been going on, spending months in Greece and now the Middle East. Sounds absolutely incredible, island hopping. I know that you bring extensive experience in the travel industry. I think I'm not going to say it, 17 years at Virgin Atlantic before ending up at Celestyal. But in your role, you've kind of bought into reimagine that marketing department and customer experience. And I know a lot of the conversations we've been having with you is around, you know, the growth in social media platforms, the rise in influencers, and also the amazing staff you have on the ground and how they can all be ambassadors. But I'd love to hear more from you. What's going on in the world of Celestyal? Tell us.
Hello, Daisy. Thank you. Well, first of all, I've loved all of your guests today. I've been listening to them intently. Yann and Michael have inspired me hugely. So thank you for letting me join.
We're going to have Will Smith and a UFO coming to.
I think so. I think it's great. My team are going to be pitching some UFO stories for me. I love it. I know they're all listening in intently. So thank you so much. It's been such a delight chatting to Vayner and the team, because you're right. We've had quite the 18 months. We've gone from quite a sleepy brand to kind of busting the myth, reimagining Celestyal Cruises. We've completely bought a new fleet. We're operating in 2 different regions, and that's been super exciting. And alongside that, I've been given the absolute beautiful challenge of kind of building a team and getting us back in front of different audiences. For us, it's all been about pushing those growth markets, so kind of those traditional UK, US, Australia, those kind of high yielding markets. And that's all on social. It's all on brand activity. It's all about kind of keeping content fresh. And it's been great talking to you and the team, because that's been keeping us on our toes. And we've had to kind of keep up with the trends. We've had to keep up with our trajectory. And that's been wonderful. And the team have really, really embraced that challenge. So it's been a speedy 18 months. But a lot of fun.
No, and it's been lovely to hear. And I think, you know, what a better canvas than kind of boats, cruises, the Greek islands, and all those places, amazing places you go to. I have got some questions to put you on the hot spot now. And I think similar to Mike, I think I'd love to hear a little bit about who your favorite teacher was and kind of why, and what that's meant for kind of your life later on.
Oh, it's a great question. I had a really great teacher at school. So I had a great deputy headmaster, and what I used to love, it was very, very similar to Mike. He was our science teacher, but he just always made us curious. He was always be curious, and he made learning fun. And I kind of think, I always say to my team, you know, we're not saving lives, we're giving people holidays. And that's the beauty of it. We should be creative. We should be having fun. And I've taken that joy of life kind of through from his lessons. He very comically as well, he'd once had an accident on a test tube, so he had no feeling in a finger. So if nobody listened,
like, where's this going when you say comically?
He hit his finger with a ruler. So it also taught me how to keep people's attention, shock them, which I loved. And then later in life, I'm a scholar of Mark Ritson, so I'm always spouting a bit of Mark, and he's always very, very good for giving some advice. So he inspired me in latter days.
And I can see that. And I think that probably the thing that comes through with all of that is that straight talking, and that alongside that curiosity. And I think that one of the beauties of Mark is that he is forever curious and always sort of bringing it back to common sense, I think, in marketing, which is something that sometimes we forget, that we are, as you say, we aren't saving lives. We are helping build brands, and, you know, ultimately drive sales. Yeah,
absolutely. That's it. And it's the joy of that, right? And also I love the beauty of forums like this, right? It's all about collaboration and actually being creative. You have to be with like-minded people. And we have to remember in the day-to-day, getting a campaign out, getting those figures, you have to, and I say to the team, they have to take time to be creative, go for a walk, take the day. It's really important, because we need to use both sides of our brain.
It's so important. And I think that the thing you guys have in abundance is you have obviously the beautiful platforms that is the boat. And there is so much richness coming through in terms of the brand doesn't just sit and live in social. It actually breathes and manifests itself through the experience and interactions people have every day on your boats. how does your brand spot and interact with that culture on social? Because obviously there'll be things you want to see, things you don't. There's also competitors. Like, yeah, talk to me a bit more about what you guys are doing in that space.
It's such a good question, because we have such rich content, and I think what we've tried to do is keep really open. So we obviously talk to you guys, we talk to a lot of our we have an agency network. We also speak to the team. So I have a fabulous team. They're really young and hungry, and they lead me to those trends as well, and they're really hungry for knowledge. But also we have a really great audience on board. So customers, listening to what customers are telling us and what they're interested in, that it's great jumping on a trend, but also there's the real importance for our business in actually educating. There's a huge barrier to cruise beyond most areas of travel forms. So for us, a lot of it's the education. And actually, when you educate people about there's a cruise for everyone, I joined cruise 18 months ago, and I don't know if I absolutely believe it now. And but it's about telling people, it's the simple things. So you make education fun, and you do that with user-generated content. And we have a wonderful influencer program. They come on. We have collaboration sessions with 20 influencers on board. They sail with us for a week. They tell us about all these up and coming trends, and that's so beautiful, because we create content, we put some really great content out, but we also have this kind of think tank bubble as well, floating around the Greek islands, which is just wonderful.
Absolutely incredible. I'm now sitting there going, how do I get on with my micro following as one of your influencers? It sounds like a brilliant program, so worthwhile.
Yeah. Well, come on board, Daisy. Come with us when we're in the Gulf, where it's our new region. So come on one of our think tanks. We'd love to have you.
Sounds like we might have to double up with Mike and get a Hevolution special going as well.
Sounds perfect. I think so.
That's brilliant. And if I was to ask you, what's the one thing, if you look at the rest of this year, because I know that often your sales period is kind of importantly impacted in the first part of next year, people, I think, coming out of that winter and going into new year going, okay, I'm ready to think about summer again. What would that one thing you'd love to do if you had like infinite budget for the rest of the year?
It's such a great question. So we have these peaks, we call them wave, throughout the season, and we ride the high waves. But also for me, we can extend that wave so much, and it's actually becoming, the industry is actually, and travel industry as a whole, is becoming, again, just as we've come out of the pandemic enough that it's kind of out for a shoulder. People are being a lot more creative. What we tend to like to do is being a bit disruptive, and we're small enough to be able to do that. So I think for us, it would be, we need to build in the Gulf, and we need to build in the Arabian Gulf. So for us, it's really about capturing the audience locally. We've got a great inaugural sailing on the 30th of November. Going from our home port in Doha. So watch this space. It's going to be fun. It's going to have a lot of activations, and out there, they know how to launch a product on a ship. Really. So for me, towards the end of the year, the team have had a really, really strong year. They've worked so hard, and I'd love them to see all the fruition of that, of having a full ship and seeing all those wonderful activations that we've got there, alongside all of our influencers that are going to be on board. And, it just happens to coincide with the Qatar Grand Prix. So I wouldn't put it past them maybe being new cars and drivers on board too. So that would be a cherry in the top of the year.
Absolutely incredible. And I wish you all the best and best of luck. We'll all be watching from afar. Like, I've got people on the comments saying, where do I sign up? How do I get involved? So you have Anna's name here, hit her up on LinkedIn. And I'm sure there'll be many, many people following up with you, but best of luck with everything. And thank you so much again for coming on today. It's been amazing to hear about your story.
Thank you both. Thank you and the team. We really appreciate your support. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Perfect. And coming up next, it's not one, but two people. We have the co-founders of CLIQ coming in on one screen as well. Hi, Jason. Hi, Nicola.
Hello, how are you?
I'm all good. I'm all good. Thank you so much for making the time today. I think it would be great to kind of just kick off by telling everyone a little bit about what CLIQ is and how you guys are doing.
Yeah, so it's actually CLIQ, not CLIQ, but everyone gets that totally wrong, so don't worry. But
I think there's a social post in that.
Yes, there definitely is. There's some content around that will be coming soon. But yeah, we're a social networking and community app, and we're all about connecting people online, but most importantly offline. So how do we get people out from behind the phone and meeting new people and just really pushing themselves out of their comfort zone, really?
Sounds absolutely incredible. And I think this isn't the first time you've dabbled in the world of entrepreneurship, is it, Jason? I think I'd love to hear a little bit more about kind of how you found your way to this latest venture.
Yeah, we had a previous startup. It was in the beauty and tech business. So it was a similar for Uber for beauty. And that got acquired after 3 years, and kind of thought we were never going to do this again. You find a problem and you're like, okay, we have this free time. Why not try and solve it? It came from personal experience. We moved to London. We just wanted to meet people, and was like, all the social media apps that we have today allowing us to connect with people. They're really not. It's great to build audiences, but not exactly community. So how do we connect online? But more importantly, how do we get those connections offline? So that's where
it's been a journey.
A journey. And I think it's so important that when you're building something, it really comes from those truths and the things you've seen, that lived experience. It just gives you that authenticity and kind of passion to see it through.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, we have got a whole bunch of questions for you two to put you on the hot seat. So first up, if you could send marketers back to school right now to learn one thing, what would it be?
I think it'd be to focus on community. I mean, community's always been around for years and years, but I think everyone now is realizing the true power of community, especially brands, influencers. Everyone now is talking about how do we build, like what Jason said in the intro, how do we build a community over an audience? Because a community, no matter what product or what event or anything that you're selling, is going to sell out because you've built that engaged audience. Whereas people are realizing now that, okay, 1 million followers on Instagram doesn't necessarily mean anything. I think community needs to work when you're not always there. So how do you build that group of people that will shout about your brand and just whatever it is that you're doing, rather than just sit on the sidelines watching you?
And I think we've seen is like with the Gymshark run clubs through London every Wednesday. Yeah. Isn't that the best marketing campaign? Everyone turns up in Gymshark, 200 people running through the city. Also, you're connecting your community together. You know, you turn up and everyone's probably a like-minded interest. It's great. And I think even we've seen with Refi earlier this year that they, instead of taking influence on the trip, they actually took their community, which was amazing. And I think that might have grabbed more press than an influencer would have done.
Yeah. It's really interesting you say that, because I don't know if you follow the fashion brand Never Fully Dressed. And again, they this week, I think, hijacked the attention of London Fashion Week and got 100 people from their community to all show up with their sequins and glad rags. And the noise they got just marching through London and being seen, sort of being joyful and collaborative, just really brought the brand to life. And I think you're so right, this shift from kind of influencers to a kind of really deep engagement in the community, because it just has much bigger waves and impact because it comes from that place of authentic followers.
Yeah, it's more relevant as well, I think, to the audience. So it's more relevant for us as consumers to see real people in these adverts and in these campaigns, as opposed to seeing influencers be like, oh, I know they've been paid X amount for this, or they've got everything for free. Like seeing actual real people that are similar to you in these brands, I think, is so relatable.
I think that's such a good point. And I think if you mentioned it earlier, there's been a big shift, and there are still some brands coming to us going, I want to grow followership. And we know that that's just not the way the algorithms work anymore. But if you think about those shifts and also the way you built your brand really with that community mindset to start off with, what's been those kind of biggest changes you've made to your own social media content over the past 12 months, would you say?
I think it is getting real people in. So a lot of our content, we're quite lucky that it comes from user-generated content. So our communities are putting on events every day. So we're really lucky that on the app, there is something happening across the UK every day, and we can use that content for it. But now we've started to hire kind of like our own content creators, but getting them to go to the actual physical event and document their experience. And it's not just pretty picture of the event, it's how they were feeling before, how they walked away from that feeling, who they met, how it changed their experience, how they'd never been to an event on their own before, and just getting that real life person talking about their experience, as opposed to showcasing, okay, this is the community. I think we've learned that on social media we need to portray feelings and how people feel, and that's so inspirational for someone else that maybe is thinking, oh, I'm really scared to put myself out of my comfort zone. They see on social media, oh, she went and she's never been to an event before, maybe I can do it now. And just really wanting to showcase those real experiences for people.
I think one of our latest videos that kind of was our most viewed recently was not showing the product. It wasn't talking about the product. It was talking about connection. It was talking about how can you get closer to a partner or a friend by asking these deep questions. And that drove more downloads and more engagement and more followers than putting a really great app feature on there and saying, look, this is what we can do for you. And this is it. So it is playing, just like Nicola said, with the feelings, with how can you attract that audience.
And I think that deep-rooted truth and authenticity within those audiences, as you said. So like I was straight away thinking about the way we think about audiences rather than those broad segments is actually really thinking about them, their mindsets as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so thinking about your first-time eventers or the solo eventers, the fears there, by having that broad community that has all of those different facets to it, it speaks more authentically to those other people, as you say, within those spaces. Really, really interesting.
I think even just on that is that we have a community joined, and it was like South Asian socials, and that was like a broad community. But now what we found is she's segregated that into the run club, into the supper club now. So, and even you look at the book club, it's going into fiction and non-fiction. So the community audience starts like this, and the community like drags down. So you can even like find your niches,
which I love. When we think about what's coming up for you guys, what exciting projects have you worked on recently or have got in the works?
Yeah, so many. I mean, with this question, I always forget because I feel like the last few months have been an absolute blur. We've had some amazing events and collaborations happen where, like I said, very lucky, they've got amazing communities on the app. But now we're like, how do we supercharge these communities and make them even bigger and bring communities together? So we just did like a collaboration with Gales and These Girls Run, and it was like runs and buns. So everyone did like their 5K run and then came back and got cinnamon buns and the social. And it's really cool that we're getting these amazing brands that maybe are a bit more traditional as well. Like I feel like Gales is such a traditional brand and not really tapped into that community in real life space anymore. Whereas why not? They're one of the biggest cafe chains in London and they realize that. So working with existing communities and bringing them into these partnerships rather than girls creating their own run club, they're like, how do we tap into all of the different ones in the area that are already more established? And that was amazing. We've done stuff with Crosstown as well. So we're doing like matcha walks and runs, just really trying to bring communities together, because the value of CLIQ is not that we're just a platform for them to manage everything. It's that they can get amazing partnerships and collaborations and even collaborate with each other. There's so much like community over competition with CLIQ, which is amazing. So we find like the book club wants to work with the walk club, the run club wants to work with the social club, and how do we bring everyone together? And then as well, we also do our own kind of like events for community leaders. So you want to create our own community of community leaders and people that are building cool things. So we've done like a big event with Gymshark and loads of cool brands, but we just want to bring as many people together as possible.
And you spoke to quite a few brands there. How do brands kind of get involved with you? What would the best step, if I kind of was thinking, because I completely agree with what you said, often we try to create a new community, a new this, and actually that can take time, and actually it's better to partner and find those communities to authentically tap in where those synergies. How would brands go about doing that with you?
Well, I think what's traditionally happened is brands would look for the influencer, look for a brand and say, okay, let's go after them, and let's even use These Girls Run as an example, is that you go after a running influencer, say, okay, let's go after these, we want to go after female runners. You're probably looking at about 6% if you're lucky. What a brand can do to us and say, we're looking to get in front of the run clubs or this type of demographic, maybe they're 18 to 30, they're interested in this type of thing. And we can go, okay, we can find you this community that's, it's not going to be a million community, but it might be 15,000. But there's three things that we can tell you. We can tell you that they're all female, they're all runners, and they're going to be going for a matcha and maybe a croissant after their run. So this is the perfect collaboration. So we kind of do a top to bottom approach. Is like, who do you want to reach? And we can connect you with those communities, whether it be an online ad within the app or it's an in real life experience with the community.
Yeah, really trying to tailor brands and communities as opposed to a brand just coming to us with a budget and we chuck it wherever. It's like, how do we really make it so aligned? Because that's what the community wants, but that's also what the brand wants. And that's the real reason that they're going away from influencers. Like, how do we get into a niche demographic? And we know that everyone in that, like with the Gymshark example, everyone wants to turn up in Gymshark. So everyone goes out and buys the kit beforehand because no one wants to be the only one without it. So really just building those niche communities.
I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for your time today. I know I can see we're being prompted because we're running out of time. Again, it's gone far too quickly. What I would love is anyone out there, any brands, please do follow up with Jason and Nicola. LinkedIn, grab their details. I'm sure there's lots of opportunities that are going to come out of here. And I'm sure lots of my team who are sitting here today thinking about how they tap into communities will be in touch soon. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daisy.
So much. Thank you.
Care.
Bye.
Bye. And last, but by no means least, we have the amazing Clare Morris lined up. There she is, who has come in to be the marketing director of South by Southwest London. Yes, you hear that correctly, people. It is coming to London next July, I believe, hitting June. June, I'm doing a disservice. The mean streets of Shoreditch and that surrounding area. I am very excited to have you on here. I know that you guys are knee deep in planning for what is due to be a very exciting time. I know people have been asking for South by Southwest to expand. It's such a legendary brand, but we'd love to hear a little bit more about kind of what you guys are up to and what you have coming up next.
Sure. Hi, Daisy. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here today. Thanks for the invitation. Yeah, I mean, I think, this is a back to school program, but actually we're literally just starting school. So South by Southwest London launches next June, 2nd to the 7th of June. And the full team is now in place here in London. So we're based in sunny Shoreditch. It's beautiful today here. And we are following the footsteps of Austin, which has been going actually since 1987.
Long, wow!
Yeah, it has been going for decades, and it's very well established, globally established, and has an awful lot of international attendees. There's between sort of 300 and 500,000 attendees at the Austin Festival. So we've got big shoes to fill, and we also have a sister in Sydney who launched last year.
Wow!
So the sort of globalization of this brand is now active and executed in Sydney. So they're actually coming round now for their second festival, which will be in October. And then we've got Austin in March, and then we'll have South by Southwest London in June. So we're just starting school.
And I think it's a brilliant time to kind of be forming and looking at everything ahead. With that in mind, are there any exciting things or any sneak previews you can give us to what to expect at South by Southwest next year?
So I won't be able to announce any of the programme just yet. We will go to market later in the year. In the autumn, we'll be live in the marketplace. At the moment, we are just building the programme. But what we can assure you is that South by Southwest London will very much have a European attitude and a European feel, and that's what's really going to differentiate it from Austin. So we will be coming to market with the addition of arts and fashion, which are two main areas that are going to differentiate us from our sister festivals. And, London is known for its creativity, and I think it's fair to say that, we are still a global powerhouse with respect to creativity, whether that be in music or film, which will also be major key festivals for South by Southwest London, as well as our conference, which will contain, multiple tracks of programming. But yeah, with the addition of arts, culture, and fashion.
What would you say one of the biggest challenges with obviously taking a very well-established brand? They've had decades to establish it and kind of grow it, and then obviously it sets a certain bar and expectation in people's mind. What do you think that some of the biggest challenges in terms of communicating, but at the same time making sure London has its own identity to all the things you've just said is kind of going to be for you guys?
Yeah, one of our immediate challenges is actually building our own community. So, to the points that your previous speakers were talking about, I'm actually, maybe I need to get in touch with CLIQ.
Love it, magic happening here.
We are fortunate to have high brand awareness amongst many professionals in different industries.
Yeah.
So, we can lean into that awareness, but nobody really understands what South by Southwest London means to them yet. And our key job over the next couple of months is really to educate people about what we're bringing to the market. But, you know, for those of us who are, you know, London based, and, you know, there are so many creative professionals, whether they be in music, screen, TV, film, or technology, or any of the disciplines that South by Southwest covers. So many of them are based here in London. So many of them understand how much is originated by Shoreditch culture. And we're really excited to be sort of taking over multiple venues in Shoreditch. So Truman Brewery will be our sort of core campus. But then we've got over 20 different venues who are all going to be South by Southwest London venues. So imagine the sort of the buzz of that at the same time during the same week.
Incredible.
It's going to be really exciting. So, you know, we're all really pumped up about it. We're really excited about it.
I can see that. And I think with you guys, obviously with so many venues and stuff, the role of social media within there, the role of, as you say, tapping into those communities to kind of distribute and accelerate the noise from there so that we get to like Sydney year 2, but also year 50, hopefully, you know, in the future. Talk to us a bit more about kind of your plans in that space from a marketing point of view and kind of what your big bets are probably for the rest of the year to get you kind of up there in terms of pre-ticket sales and awareness.
Absolutely. I mean, we're starting with our own team, to be honest. So we've got an amazing bunch of individuals who are making up the South by Southwest London programming team. And we're starting with sort of an editorial narrative approach to our communications. They're currently in the process of setting the artistic vision for each of their areas of the event programme. And each vision will obviously have its own personality, and we're going to look to really lean into that. So, for example, we're looking at underground music scenes in the UK. We're looking at counterculture. Within the UK, all of that will be announced as and when we launch, which will be a little bit later in the year. But yesterday, our team was out with Vayner on the streets of Shoreditch. We were doing vox pops. We were stopping people, explaining that we're launching South by Southwest London next year, asking them what are they interested in seeing, what do they know about South by Southwest London. So we're really trying to build this reputation ground up. So I'm looking forward to seeing the vox pops. I haven't actually seen them yet. So so we're starting with real people on the ground, and just helping them to lean into them really to help us start to create our own personality, because it's all here, it's all around us. We've just got to try and communicate. We've got to capture it and communicate it.
I love it. And I will tell you one thing. I was in Netherlands the other week speaking to one of our production partners out there, and they were talking to me and going, did you know South by Southwest London's coming? So the word is getting out there. You are starting to, everyone's very excited to have another thing to come to next year in London. But I know that word is spreading quick and fast across EMEA.
Glad to hear it. Happy to hear that. Happy to hear it. Yeah.
I mean, pre-sales coming soon. Yeah.
Hey?
I was like, pre-sales coming soon.
Yeah, pre-sale is coming soon. We expect to have a very European attendee list. Yeah. So, a lot of festivals are specific to one discipline in the European sort of event market. And we're excited to be bringing like a real intersection of different disciplines. And it's that convergence that is really going to set us apart from everybody else. And we expect all of our communities across mainland Europe, but also the US as well. I used to work for a famous festival in France, and a big portion of the attendees were from the US, because it's a main market. Europe is usually the number 2 market for global brands. So it's really important that all of our American colleagues understand what's going on in this market.
It's going to be incredible. I am very, very excited, as I know many of my team are, to see how this progresses and continue to partner with you guys. But thank you so much for your time today, Claire. Again, the dates for next year for everyone's diary are June the
2nd to the 7th.
2nd to the 7th. So get those down now. Look out for those pre-sales, and do get in touch with Claire when it comes to community. And if you've got ideas and thoughts around the festival of how you want to get involved, please reach out to Claire. But thank you so much for your time today. I think we're going to take it back to my wonderful colleague, Avery, who's going to close out for the session for today.
All right. I know what I'm doing next June. I'm heading to South by Southwest London. Claire, that was so exciting. Thank you for showing us a peek into what you all are cooking up. I've been to the Austin Festival a couple of times. Gonna have to make it out to visit you, Daisy, and our lovely team in London next June.
It's going to be amazing. Well, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone today. There's been so many insights.
So many. I feel like this was an action-packed episode, and I know we ran a little bit late. So thank you for hosting us. Thank you for all of our wonderful guests for joining us. So educational, so inspiring. Makes me want to plan a trip to London and to EMEA to hear of all the awesome things in person. But this was an absolutely jam-packed, action-packed episode, and we're so grateful to everyone for tuning in to Marketing for the Now. We will see you guys next time.
See you soon. Thanks. Bye.